Okay, hello everyone, welcome. Okay, how was the midterm assignment? Were you able to submit everything? Okay. At the end, I didn't pay attention to the time zone. So when I set up the assignment, it is not that I didn't pay attention. It is that a GitHub Classroom didn't specify which was the time zone in which the time was set up. So that's why when I set up it for 23:59, it did, but with another time zone. So that's why in Italy it was like 3 or something like that. I tried to change the limit, but it wasn't possible, so that's why I gave you the option, if you were not able to submit through GitHub Classroom, to upload the files. Okay, but for the final exam, we won't do it with GitHub Classroom, but we will do it as a submission in the Portale della Didattica. That is simple, okay? How was last week lesson with Professor De Russis? Did you attend? Okay. Okay, the idea there was to get a different perspective from the design and the interaction point of view, because at the end we're developing applications that are intended to be used by final users. So if it is not possible to understand how to deal with our application or how to interact with our application, it's basically useless. A web application that is not understandable and it's not easy to use and it's not easy to manipulate by a final user, by a human, is useless. So the idea was to get guidelines on how to design a web application, and even if you were not able to use all of what you learned or all of the concepts that you studied in the lesson, for the final exam, it's a good starting point and a good consideration to take into account. So basically, at this point, we are already in week 12. We have like 2 weeks left, 2 complete weeks left. In the next 2 weeks, what I propose is, okay, this Friday we will have a lab on the deployment of the application. Do you know what the deployment means? What is it? Moving from the local to the server, that is executing our application into a platform that is specifically built to execute Flask applications. It is called Python Anywhere. And okay, since I already said this, maybe for Friday, if you can create an account on Python Anywhere, would be fine. Anyway, the lab text that I will upload this week is I have designed the lab as a tutorial, so it's very easy to follow. Let me show you. Okay, this is the Italian version, but I will upload the English version. And I have designed it basically as a tutorial on how to create the application on Flask Python, how to upload the application, and basically step by step how to set up the application. It's not super difficult, and and in the final exam you will get points for submitting the application, for the deployment of the application. Okay, so we will work on this on Friday, but if you want also to work by yourself, I will upload today the document, so if you want to start working on it, you can do it. For now, please create the account in the Python Anywhere platform so that everything is already prepared. And next week we will see JavaScript very briefly, because we won't have that much time to go deeper into JavaScript. And what I propose, if you agree with that, is that we can try to work on exam simulations. so that you can get an idea of how an exam of this course looks like. What are you supposed to do? What is like the difficulty level of an exam? And well, so maybe we can spend the last 2 weeks, the last classes on doing exam simulations. Okay. Of course, it is not possible to implement here in the lesson the whole application, but at least to design it or to reason on the exam text. Okay. Yeah. Well. And what I wanted to do for today was, okay, I wanted to get back to the application we were developing. We were doing some adjustments on Imparato, and by doing some adjustments, we can understand which kind of things we were able to do with the authentication, which kind of things we were able to do with Flask login, how to deal with the fact of showing some things when the user is authenticated and hiding some others when the user is not authenticated. And somehow last time we start playing with that, no? There are two aspects, technical aspects, that are pretty simple. They are not so complex, but are important to integrate into our application. One of them has to do with the messages, something that is called messages, because so far we are not giving any feedback to our user after an action. So we are not giving any feedback to an user, for instance, when the authentication is wrong. So if, for instance, I try to log in here with the random credentials, okay, it didn't work, but I don't have any way to know that it didn't work. I can infer it didn't work because I still see this login button that was supposed to disappear when the user was logged in, and well, nothing else, but I don't get any feedback on that. So in Flask, there is a mechanism to deal with this feedback or to deal with these messages, that the mechanism is called messages. So we will see how to implement that so that, for instance, when something don't work, it gives some feedback. And the other thing that it's kind of more critical, but I don't know if you have been dealing with that, is with the images management. Why do you think it is kind of critical, the images management? Because if you design a layout, but you give the chance to the users to upload their images, we don't have any control on which are the dimensions of the images that the users upload, the dimension or the ratio of the images that the user upload. So if we, for instance, design a super nice layout that works everything perfect, but the user uploads an image that is huge, then it will make our layout crash, okay? Or the opposite. If we design our layout in which the image is supposed to occupy this portion of the screen, for instance, and the user uploads a tiny image, then everything will crash. So to deal with that complexity of the images, we will use a library that is called Pillow, and well, we will see today how to use it. I specifically want to devote some time to those two technical aspects that, although are very simple, are also very useful and are basically required for the exam. I don't know if you have any other doubt on the technical things that we have been working so far with the examples or with the lab. Okay. So, Okay, so for instance, let's suppose that I have okay, so in this case, the authentication worked. I still have to hide this one. So do you remember how did we hide this one when the user was authenticated? What was the mean to indicate that the user was authenticated? We use the Flask login utilities, no? Because with the Flask login utilities, we were able to identify if a given user, or if in that moment there was a current user authenticated. Okay, so basically the way we use Flask login to show, for instance, become a tutor, or the options that we show here, we can use it to delete or to hide this register button. So let's first fix that. So indeed, we already had this one. If log out, this one, the register button should not be indeed, we can do this. Which means here that if the user is not authenticated, it doesn't make sense here to show the login button or to show the registration button. Okay, so first this end if was until here, but since we don't want to show neither this register option, we basically wrap everything into the if form, also to cover this one registration button. Okay, so now it doesn't show that specific option. Now what I would like to do is that when we click on Luigi, I want to create like a profile page so that it shows the user information. I'm trying to do this to first show what's the difficulty or what is the issue with the images as we are dealing right now with them, and then we will fix that specific issue with the images. So let's say that here we have this link that is the one that shows with the current username. So that's why it is showing Luigi, because it's the username of the user that is currently logged in the application. We want to create a new page that is the one concerning to the user profile. So let's say that this one will be called profile. And of course, if we are saying here that we are redirecting to the URL for the profile, what does it mean? It means that in app.py we have to create the endpoint and the specific function for that route. So route, let's create it here. And in this case, we will retrieve not login.html, but we will create a specific template that corresponds to a user profile page. So we don't have anything yet. So here we will create a and let me HTML. And here, of course, instead of login, it will be profile. Okay. So was it clear the whole procedure that I used there? I basically said that on this link right now, the one that corresponds to the current username, which is the one here, will now be calling to the URL associated with the function profile. This function profile is defined in app.py, and here in app.py, that function, basically the only thing that it does is rendering the template that we have just created, that is profile.html. Within the profile.html, we will just show the current username and the name and the surname of the user that is currently authenticated. Why can we use this current user? Where I am getting this current user from? From Flask login. No? We already know that that is a variable that Flask login gives us, provides us to get access to the user that has been currently authenticated. Now what happens when I log out? That button disappears, and well, it disappears. Although, okay, what are we missing here in the root? Or the question should be, does this root make sense when the user is not logged in? Login required. Because we want to protect this root. We don't want that a user could write here profile. Okay, although the button is not shown here, or the link is not shown here, the user could always try to insert like the root in the browser. And in this specific case, we want to prevent that action because it doesn't make any sense. If the user is not authenticated, then the profile option should not be permitted to the user. So how do we block this here? With the login required decorator in this case. That is the one that we get also from Flask login. So now in this case, for instance, I get unauthorized, the system that could not verify. So this is like an effective protection against users trying to get access to specific routes that are not available for users that haven't been logged in, okay? Perfect. So questions so far? Okay. Okay. Oh. Okay, here we're having an issue because when we were saving the image, we were saving the image in this specific route, okay? That was static images, and within images in this profile images folder. But then what we were saving into the database was not the whole route or the whole path, but we were just saving the profile image, that file name. So instead of doing that, now what we can save in the file name in the database should be the complete route, so that it is already pointing to the specific position of the image. Since in this function URL4 we are already specifying the static folder, we can just leave it this way. So we can say that the complete route for the profile image is images, profile images, and the file name. Okay. Let's see how it works. Of course, the users that have been saved so far have just the root of the image, but well, let's create a new one and see if the new one works. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so in this case, it worked, and now in the database, it has been saved as images, image profile, profile images, and as chosen so, or the whole name of the application or of the image. Okay. So now basically there is an issue with this image because, as you can see, it occupies like the whole width, the whole available width. And maybe in the specific case of a profile image, we want to make it not a rectangular image, but an image with a specific proportion and with some specific limits. Also because from the performance point of view and the deployment point of view, we don't want that the users have the whole possibility to upload any kind of image. We want to restrict the size of the image, we want to restrict the height of the image, because otherwise what would happen? Our server, or the place in our application where we will save the images, will be super loaded with high resolution with high resolution resources. So just to just to get clear on this, we're now focusing on this file system, component of our architecture, which in the implementation corresponds to a static folder. We're basically uploading all of our files within here in the file system that in our case is the static folder. We want to make sure that all of the resources that are being managed here in the file system folder, specifically the images that are the ones we will be dealing with, comply with some characteristics and comply with some requirements, and that they are not super high and super high definition and super heavy loading images. So let me Is it clear why we are trying to do these things with the images, and why are we trying to prepare them and set up them when the user uploads so that it doesn't ruin our interface, and also to prevent them from being super heavy on the server side? Okay. So for instance, something that I could be doing here is using a bootstrap class. It's called rounded circle. So that typically when a user image is shown, the profile image, have you seen that it is shown like in a circle, like Instagram or any other social network? So we might think that here the user profile image can be shown in this way. What happens with our image? That is a rectangular image. So it doesn't fit well in this layout, because of course it extends like an oval instead of a circle. Where do you think we might be doing something to fix the images? Or at which point of the application logic we should do something to fix the images? Should we enable the users to upload any image, or should we restrict which kind of images are loaded? How would you fix this issue?
Maybe
with the validation?
Requirements there.
Yeah, maybe some requirements on the validation, so that, yeah. Right now we are asking some requirements concerning the extension of the image, right? The image extension. We might also include some requirements concerning the weight of the image, for instance. It is just, and it is technically it is feasible, it is a good option, but well, I don't know if you have experienced that, but it's boring when you are trying to upload something and the platform says you have to choose an image below this dimension or below this file size, and then you have to check the file size and see that everything works. So it's an option, but what we would prefer is to process it ourselves. Basically, give the user the chance to upload any image that complies with a specific extension, and then when we get the image uploaded by the user, pre-process the image. Yeah? You were going to say?
I don't know, maybe we can check there is
Yeah, we can check the resolution. We can set a specific resolution or a specific dimension to the picture. But where are we doing that specifically in the application?
I thought maybe it's possible to do it in the server side, but I know it's possible in Bootstrap, for example, there is a class called ratio that can force the ratio of an image like 1:1, for example.
Yeah, sure. But in this case, with the Bootstrap, it would be just for the presentation, for the visualization of the image.
So it's the same weight of the image doesn't change. So
Yeah. So because, for instance, in this case, if we apply that specific class, what would happen is that, okay, this will be shown as a circle, but the whole image will be shrinked into that circle. So it will be a deformed image because it was originally a rectangular image that is now shrink into a circle. So it would anyway, it wouldn't work. So we should be doing something in the moment in which the user is uploading the image, no? And what we are going to do is, okay, give me the image, and before saving the image into the file system and before saving the image into the database, that the database is pointing to the file system, we will preprocess the image so that the one that we save complies with a specific dimension and complies with a specific ratio, okay? So that's what we are going to do here. Since that will be our approach, where do you think we will do it now? In the registration route, no? Because it's here where the user uploads the image for the first time. So well, let's try how to do it. So first of all, we will use this pill that it is called, the whole module name is pillow. And let me check here if okay, so in this case I already have Pillow installed, but in your case, okay, you will have to install Pillow before using it. And okay, here it is used as pill in uppercase, but for the installation it is Pillow. Okay. And it stands for Python Image Library. Okay, and I will do this and you show me, and you tell me what I'm doing, okay? So up to now, what is this one? This a constant. So I've defined a value for the constant. What do you think this value will be for? For setting a specific height to the user profile image. Okay, so in this case, I just defined the height. Why do you think I don't define the width? Because I want it to be squared. So this one will be enough for setting the proportion of the image. I want the image to have the same height as and the same width. So just by defining this one it is enough just for what I'm trying to do. Comments. And then let's get back to registration. So now we were here, no? When we were uploading an image, we were asking if on the requested files from the submission form that the user has submitted has a profile image attribute on it, and if it has, we get the image and we save the image. So do we agree that the transformation of the image should be done here? Before saving the image and before saving the image into the database, we should be doing something here with the image that the user has uploaded. So what's the first thing that we are going to do is to open that image, okay? What does this refer to? To the module that we have just imported from Pillow, okay? So Pillow has an option in this specific module to open the file, okay? Open the file is like to have access to that specific file to read the file, to indicate which one is the file we want to deal with. So here we're passing the profile image that we are getting from the form. What do you think we're doing here in this specific line? We're basically gathering from the image that we have just opened, which one is the width, what is the width and the height of that specific image. So for instance, in the case for the one that I have just uploaded that is huge, it should be like 1080 by 900 something, okay? So here I'm getting the dimension of the image that the user has just uploaded. Oh, now you tell me, what did I do here? In this one?
Maintaining the same aspect
Sure. I'm trying to get what should be the new width of the image, taking into account the height of the image that I have defined. Okay. So basically, I fix the height of the image, and I try that the new width should be consistent with the height of the image. Okay. So this one was the reason why I didn't have to define any constant for the width, because it's something that I will compute based on the profile image height that I have just said before. Okay. So in this case, I'm calculating it as a proportion of the width with respect to the height. In this case, if the image is already squared, or if the image has the same width and the same height, what will be the value here? 1, no? Because if the image is, for instance, 500 by 500, 500 divided 500 will be 1, and the width of the image will be equal to the profile image height. Otherwise, it computes the proportion, and then it multiplies by the height of the image that I have established. Okay, and let me check something. So right now, what happened when I uploaded the image again? It basically upload the image with the new dimensions that I gave to that specific image. So do you remember it was like 130 by 130? Let's see if we can open this in the... Now it is 231 by 130, okay? So the height, it's fine, but now we have to fix the width, okay? What I will try to do right now? I have already shrink the image to a specific height, okay? And it is working. But now I have to cut the image. Now I have to crop the image because since it is a rectangular image and I need a squared image, I have to crop it so that it just keeps with the central portion of the image, okay? So that's what I will be trying to do in the next step. So now, up to now, I've just calculated a new width by restricting the height of the image. I have created a new size for the specific image with the new width and with the constant that represents the height. And I have called this function that is image.thumbnail, that is to get the image and create a thumbnail from that specific image. This is a function that belongs to Pillow. So let's remember that this image class belongs to Pillow. So therefore, this thumbnail is a function belonging to Pillow. And there we specify two variables. One, the size of the image that we want to thumbnail. And then we have to specify like an algorithm that we will use to crop the image, okay? In this case, by default, the resampling algorithm that we will always use is this one, that is the default one, that is langOS. Is it clear so far what we are doing? And at which point are we? Perfect. Okay. So now what do you think these variables are for, or how do they work? I basically specify in the image 4 points, no? The point in the right, the point in the top, the point in the left, and the point in the bottom point of the image that I will take to crop the image. Now let's take into account that our image partially works because now it has like the height that we want, and we were able to redimension the image based on the height that we defined, that was 130. But we still have to fix it because it is a rectangular image and we want a squared image. So basically, to crop the image, we specify 4 points. 1 point regarding the top in the vertical axis, so 1 point here, that in our case was 0, because we want to fix this initial point on the vertical axis here. What do you think will be the bottom point of the image? It will be the profile image height, because we want it to be here 0, here 130. We want to get all of the height of the image. And then how do we fix this variable? I mean this horizontal starting point and the horizontal ending point. How would you choose that? Do we want to start it from 0? No, maybe not, because maybe what we want is to crop the image, but from the center, not from the left side, but from the center. Okay? So in this case, what did I do here? So basically here I get the new width that, let's suppose that in this image this is 130, and let's suppose this one is 200. It isn't, but let's suppose this one is 200, no? So I get the new width of the image and I divide it by 2. Why? Because I want to stand on the middle of the image. So if this is 200, then when I get the middle point, that is 100, I should be standing on this point. Okay? And now I say, okay, to this 100, let's subtract the constant, that is 130, divided by 2. Okay, so standing from here, I will subtract 75 in this case. It is 65, sorry, because it is 130. So from here, I will subtract 65. That will stand me here. Okay, so that in this case, I will have 65 on this and up to here. And then the final one, what will I do? The same, just that, but it will change that instead of subtracting 65, I will be adding 65. Okay? So in this case, I will make sure that what I'm cropping here, or that the portion that I'm getting here, is equal to 130. Okay? Is clear the reasoning? So first, I stand at the middle of the new width of the image. I subtract the half of the value of the constant. So if I set it to 130, I subtract 65. I increase 65 to get the right value, and then in that case, I've defined, or I have identified which are the 4 points that I will use to crop the image. So as you can see now, I created a new file, I uploaded the same picture, and now we are cropping the image, and we are getting just the central portion of the image, okay? So up to now, we are fine. So we were able to set the image with the specific. Okay, we will then do the login. But now I want you to observe here, and what do you think it's the problem with this image that we have just uploaded? What's the issue? I mean, the image is fine, but if you observe here, let's check something. Let me show you here on the database. So how many users do we have right now? We have created 7 users, right? And there are 2, 3, 4. We have 7 users, and we should be having 7 different images, 1 for each user. But if we take a look here at the profile images folder, we just have 3, 4, 5. Okay, 5 images. What happened?
They have the same name, so it's like overridden.
Yeah. So since I was always uploading the same image with the same name in the file system, they are overriding. Do we want that? No. Because of course, here we must consider that we don't have any control of the users that will use our web application. So I don't want that if a new user creates his profile with an image called my image, then it will overwrite another user image. So we must make sure that here in the database and here in the file system, the names don't replicate, okay? That each name is unique. Because if the names are not unique, then all of the files will be overriding once again. So how do we make the name unique in this case? Or which proposal do you have to make this name unique? Is it clear what's the issue here? The issue is that a new user creates his account and he uses the same name of an image that has been used before, then that image will be overridden will be overridden the file system. Okay, so that a user that before has created his profile with his own image will see the image that next user has uploaded with the same name, because we are overriding it here. This seems to be something silly, but as I've always told you, don't forget or don't lose sight on the fact that here we're implementing an application that is not intended to be used by one user, but an application that is intended to be used by hundreds or thousands of users that are distributed, that they are not communicating, and that we don't have any control on how the users behave with our application, okay? So, what do you think could be a good idea to fix that issue?
Maybe you want to set this to include the ID.
The ID, yeah.
If you don't want to store just the ID in the database because maybe someone can guess it.
Yeah.
You can do a concatenation of the image name and the ID and then generate a hash.
Yeah, maybe that one could be a good option, to generate a hash based on the ID and on the image original file name. Sure, I agree with that one. Indeed, we don't want to show the ID. I mean, the first option or the first thing that comes to our mind is each user has a unique ID, no? So since each user has a unique ID, I will save the image with using that specific ID. What's the issue with that? That we don't want to reveal let's say, reveal the world what's the ID of a given user in our table. We don't want to reveal that data, okay? Because it might have like security potential issues, and don't forget that this one didn't have an image. Okay, but let's don't forget that here from the browser, any user could do something as inspect element or save image. And in this case, if we save the images with the ID, it will be possible for anyone to know how a specific user is saved or what is the ID given to a specific user into our database. Okay, and it's something we want to keep hidden from the users. So one alternative is, of course, to create the hash. That is something that we already know how to do. The other option is to use, okay, let's say that in this case, when we do the user registration, yeah. Okay, no, because in our example, I used to have like a nickname. Okay, so if we have a nickname, such as the one that we use, for instance, in Instagram or something like that, that we know that is also unique and specifically given to each user, we can also use the specific or the unique ID, and in such way to use a specific value for the user. And here, in this case, what is unique in this registration? The email address. So we could also use the email address, but once again, what's the issue of using the email address? That we don't want to expose or to potentially reveal what's the email address of a user that is registered in our platform. Okay, so the hash is like the correct one, but apart from that, I wanted to show you another option that is Okay, so did you see what I do here? I basically got the timestamp. The timestamp is basically the seconds that have happened so far since 1970, something like that. But it's like a very specific timestamp, a very specific value that retrieves me an integer, and then I use that specific unique combination to create the file image, the image name, the image of the file. What I'm missing here, because now I've said that the new image name is this one, but I'm missing something there. Would this one work? Yeah.
The original file name.
Yeah, but there is something from the original file name that I specifically need. I mean, for instance, if I get this image, I don't need anymore these shows and so on, but what do I need? The extension. No, because otherwise it won't be able to distinguish or to identify such file as an image, okay? So I still need to keep the extension. So now my image won't be all of this string.jpg, but it will be something like a number, a random number, .jpg. Or in the case that you suggested, using a hash, it will be .hash.jpg, okay? So here, before doing this or while doing this, we need to extract the extension of the image. So basically here, from the profile image that the user has uploaded in the form, I'm splitting that root into two based on the point, so that I know if it is a file, the point is the one that distinguishes the file name from the extension of the image, or from the extension of any file. So I'm splitting the string or the file name of the image, and then from that one I'm getting the last part, that is the one that corresponds to extension. And since I already know what is the extension of the image, then when I create the image name, or the new image name that I want to give, I use the timestamp, but then I concatenate it with the extension of the image. So this one should do the trick. And now you have seen that the image has been created as a JPEG image, but with this specific timestamp. So in this way, we are completely sure that there won't be overriding of the image, and that each user will be given a specific image. One option was to do it with the timestamp. Another option was to do it with a hash. There is another option that is by using a UID. That is also a feasible option. The important thing here is to make sure that two images or the same name won't be assigned to two images. Always keeping in mind that we don't have any control on the users that are using our application and on the way they will manage their files. So it's something that is our responsibility and that we must get that responsibility. Okay. Let me. Okay, so questions so far? Was it clear how are we dealing with the images? Let's suppose that, okay, for instance, this application doesn't have so many images, but well, where do you think that we might be dealing with images here, other than creating the profile? Well, maybe in the announcements, if we give the user the option to set an image for a specific announcement or something like that, well, I don't know. But anyway, for sure, in the application that you will implement for the exam, there will be something like dealing with the images. So it is not just for the profile image, but it's also for giving a specific restrictions to the size and to the proportion of the images that you want to use. Let me check if I'm forgetting something. No, I think we're fine. Of course, well, I think this is pretty obvious, but always check and make sure that the name that you are giving to a file that you are storing here is the same name that you are using to store the record in the database. Otherwise, there will be the inconsistency and the user won't be able to access that specific route. Okay. Questions? Is it clear? Perfect. So, Paul, let's take a break and then we will see the messages part in the second half.